Tim, you okay?
Yeah.
That was full commitment, bro.
I was full in. I broke the wrist.
Do we have a waiver for that?
Yeah, we need to sign something.
Okay. Woo.
Take my hood.
All right, now. Let's talk about things. Let's talk about things. What'd you learn in meditation?
Find the senses to get a better result.
Yes, find the senses to get a better result. All right, so I want to draw something up here. Bryce, you're going to have to help me remember to move this stuff. Okay. All right, so we talked a little bit about this, I think, once before, but here's the conscious mind, here's the unconscious mind, and the whole thing is the subconscious mind. Okay? So this is our awareness, this is our perception, right? On a conscious level. But that doesn't mean that this isn't active. Yeah. So like if I'm smelling something, right? Depending on how strong the smell is, I might be conscious of it. But after a while, like if you go into mom's kitchen and you're like, oh, spaghetti smells so good in here. And then you start talking, you start playing some cards while the sauce is cooking. Slowly, you start to forget about that, right? Does it mean you're not smelling it anymore? No, you're just used to it and you're not conscious of it anymore. So remember that all of the senses are acting like this at any given time. So when we're binding the senses, essentially what we're doing is taking this entire field and directing it towards a conscious perception, right? If we can do that, what it's really doing is creating this subconscious focus. It's empowering full unconscious mind, full conscious mind directed towards a single point. Creates a engine of the subconscious mind to then invert this triangle. And this is something called the supra-consciousness. Okay? So this is what we're trying to do with yoga meditation. So this is very interesting and different than what we talk about when we talk about meditation normally. We're talking, you know.
Are you recording?
Yes, thank you.
I just didn't hear it say recording.
I know.
And that's what you have to say. Watch this.
Okay, running man back. So a lot of times when we talk about our relationship with meditation, we speak about mindfulness. Like in the corporate world, I never talk about the super consciousness, right? I never talk about like directing the unconscious mind and the subconscious mind. Literally what we do most of the time when we're beginning meditation is called open monitoring meditation. Has anybody heard of this? Okay, now you know. So open monitoring meditation is, you got this? Can I erase this?
Yep.
Okay.
Did Mari see it?
Mari saw it. Yeah, you got it right, Mari. She looked like she was taking notes. So. Okay. This is okay. So if we have an object here, and our field of perception is focusing on that object, the more finite that object is, the more our focus becomes, our attention becomes focused, okay? So really when we're talking about meditation, it's kind of a convoluted word now, but what we're talking about is where we're placing our attention, right? So we have meditations that are exteroceptively focused. What does that mean?
Something outside.
Exactly. The horizon, the sun, the moon, the mountains, the river, whatever it is, right? What we're doing in the yoga meditation is interoceptively focused, right? So you're binding the senses inward, pratyahara. Now, if this object were not specific, say it was the whole range of field of my five senses. It was sight, sound, touch, taste, all the things, right? Well, my attention is going to disperse like this. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is this still meditation? Well, ish. I mean, here's the difference. The yogis dedicated and spent their lives to certain techniques that gave predictable results. They were scientists of the spiritual body, right? So really, Patanjali's yoga is the science of the mind, right? It's a psychology. It's not meant to be haphazard. when I meditate in an open monitoring sense, this can be really a great tool if I'm tense, right? If I have a lot of mental tension, if I'm feeling fatigued, this is a great meditation, but it doesn't give me predictable results, right? Oftentimes when I sit down to do this type of meditation, I may find that my mind wanders and I'm thinking all of a sudden about this interaction I had with this person and, oh, I haven't called my uncle in a while. And am I really being a good enough partner right now? What could I do to step up my game and be a better friend to Bryce too, right? Like anything and everything is kind of fair game in this meditation. So when Patanjali defines meditation, he talks about basically 3 steps beyond pratyahara. What's the first one? Did I put the H right? Did you talk about this morning? Okay, great. So dharana. Say dharana. This is the 6th limb of Patanjali's 8 limbs yoga, right? What does dharana mean? Good. I'm just going to simply put it as focus. So this is focus. So when Patanjali is talking about the 8 limbs, as we move through the 8 limbs, do you think we're moving from a general field towards a more specific field? Or do you feel like we're moving towards a specific field towards a more general field? Right? So just think about how we enter into the field. We've got yamas and niyamas, right? Then we've got asana, which gets a little bit more specific. Pranayama gets more specific. Pratyahara. So dharana, focus, yes. Focus is not this direction, right? That's more open monitoring. So like when people talk about, like in Buddhism, resting in awareness or peaceful abiding, this is a very advanced technique of meditation, and it's one in which, like, if I were to say to a beginner, hey, let me teach you meditation, sit and clear your mind, right? Wait, I'm supposed to clear my mind with the very thing that is cluttered, and it's cluttered because of its very nature. Hence the impossibility of that action, right? How can I clean what is dirty of its own volition and of its own material? Does that make sense? Yeah. That's like saying clean. It reminds me of the old Simpsons, where Mr. Burns bought a baseball team and Don Mattingly had this massive mustache. We saw everything's very good. Just Mattingly, get rid of those sideburns. So next time you see him, he's got a sideburn shaved up, nice, high and clean, right? Still has the mustache. He goes, okay, great second meeting. Mattingly, get rid of the sideburns. Next thing you know, he's got like his head shaved around this side right here. And then finally he's like, that's it, Mattingly, you're off the team. I said, get rid of those sideburns. The idea is that we're missing the point with what we're trying to get out of meditation based on what kind of meditation we're using, right? So if we want to have a sense of relaxation, a sense of restoration, a sense of ease with the meditation, open monitoring, peaceful abiding might be good for you. Also depends on your personality style, right? So like every part of this sadhana, I promise you, 50% or more of it is going to come up into a way that's not easy for you to do. Whether it's a lung capacity issue, whether it's a focus issue, whether it's a activating my stomach vacuum issue, my abdominal vacuum issue, right? All this stuff is really challenging, but the point is that the more specific the practice is, the more predictable and specific the outcome will be. So remember yesterday we talked about signs of success on the spiritual practice, on the spiritual journey, and I called them big dubs and little dubs. And in 200 Hour, I always say this, that I don't like the word enlightenment, right? You've heard me say this, whereas Andrea and you've heard me say this a lot, but I don't use the word enlightenment.
Like every day.
But I will use them in this particular sense. Like, what are the little, you could also say, like, what are my little E's and my big E's as I'm coming along? And so from yesterday, if we're tracking the progress of how we're transforming and curating personal development for ourselves over this 9 months, the tool is the sadhana and the constituent parts. The outcomes are predictable, so we can measure how well we're doing with the sadhana based on how well the outcomes are doing. And it starts with focus, okay? So focus, we also talked yesterday about this, this acronym, SVT. What is that? Does anybody remember what this stands for? Okay, so open monitoring meditation and focused yoga meditation, they both, once you get to levels of mastery, a lot of the results cross over. There's a big Venn diagram of what the crossover is, and it's just two different routes to get there, right? However, I'll say that like, we're gonna practice yoga meditation here. We're not gonna practice Buddhist meditation or Western meditation, mindfulness, okay? That's my goal to you. If you want to add on other forms of meditation in your sadhana, great. Don't lose track of what we're doing though, because that's there's specific signposts along the way that are going to help you as a yoga teacher. And ultimately, that's what we're also doing, is developing ourselves as yoga teachers so that we can become better. You're moving from 200-hour, I really think of 200-hour teachers as yoga instructors. You're instructing asana. That is really what your expertise is in. And when you move into 300-hour now, you're becoming yoga teachers. Your expertise is now going to be in yoga, writ large, right? Does anybody remember what this means though? Does it ring a bell?
Something effortlessness, timelessness.
Ah! Selflessness, effortlessness, and timelessness, okay? So this doesn't really happen when we're in this first stage, when we're focusing, when we're learning the techniques of this chakra kundalini meditation, okay, this mystical meditation. It's a mystical meditation, meaning that you are focusing the mind and the senses on abstract, sacred, mysterious objects to create an outcome that will be a peak experience. That is another way of saying a mystical experience. That is another way of saying a form of samadhi, or a higher state of consciousness, or a deeper state of awareness, greater sense of clarity. All those things are the big dubs yesterday, right? However, when we practice this long enough and start to gain some level of acumen with it, we come to the 7th stage, which is this it? Dhyana. Dhyana, yes. Dhyana means, we're told, means what? Oh, I like that. Yeah, so most of the time people say, well, this is meditation, right? But again, meditation is this word that has way too much connotation, obligatory connotation attached to it for us to really understand what we're meaning. So I like to use different terms and definitions to get really clear about what the shift is from being in a focus state to a flow state. All right? This is how you know you're advancing with the techniques as well, by the way. So here's the kind of the famous or classical metaphor. You're pouring water out of a spout, or it's oil, actually, it's oil. In this state, in dharana, it's just a drip. So it's hitting the target. The water is the attention, right? You're kind of aiming here, and then the drip of the oil is, okay, got it that time. But then there's an interruption. Got it that time. Then there's a disruption. Got it that time. Then I'm thinking about The Simpsons. Got it this time. Why didn't he shave those sideburns? Then it's, you know what I mean? But after a while, you do this long enough, and it's, by the way, part practice and part surrender. It's a tricky thing. So you can't just force it to happen. In the surrender, certain things become available to you. Things like the grace of the Sangha, the grace of the Guru. And these things at higher levels of yoga are required. You have to open your heart to something greater than yourself to receive these, what you might call like abilities, these siddhis, right? So in the flow state, you imagine that now that oil is no longer dripping, but it's in a steady stream. It's hitting its target. So my attention is focused on the thing, and it's at a steady state, fairly unbroken for a certain amount of period of time. Now, are these completely mutually exclusive, or do you think that there's a big gray area? Exactly. So it might stream for a while. You know, if you do a 10-minute meditation, it might stream for like 30 seconds, and then for the next 3 minutes, it might be back to here. And then it might fall back into your senses. You might even step back a stage and be like, now I'm smelling mom's spaghetti again. And then you might fall back further, like, I'm not even bringing the breath into this. The breath for the Kundalini chakra meditation is so important because the prana is the driver of Shakti energy. Without the breath, the meditation you will get nowhere with you can visualize a red line all day long, but without the breath working with it, it won't activate the chakras in a way where they're pulling the Shakti yet, okay? And then even if you take a step further back and you're like, my body's uncomfortable here. Like I have a lot of tension, my low back hurts. It's probably not conducive to a sattvic state of mind. You have to have a really quiet Zen mind to do this work, right? So look at all these obstacles that make this work really hard. That's why I spend so much time saying, you know how many benefits there are? Because as you, I hope, will get on my side of things over this next 10 months, we have a lot of work to do as yoga teachers in the realm of being cheerleaders and encouragers to say, you can do it, right? You can do this, because it is hard. And anybody just left to their own devices probably wouldn't do this. That's why the relationship between teacher and student is so important, because in one hand, it's encouragement. On the other hand, it's like, you also have to do this all yourself, right? Question? Let's see hand go up. Okay. And then finally, so this is as far as we're going to go in the 300 hour to dhyana. But then we do have samadhi, which you'll talk a lot more about. And samadhi is just once this flow state is so established and the quality starts to result in the effect of absorption. What is that? So samadhi, split this word up. Sama means same. D is the type of mind that is the highest quality of mind. It's the remember, you know when we say like your big ass self, your big S self, either one, that is your buddhi. That is your connection to divine intelligence. All right. So when we say absorption, I want to come back to this. Remind me after I just explain the 4 states of mind. What we mean by absorption into what? Well, it's an object, but we're going to come right back to that. I do want to just quickly outline the 4 states of mind. So we have, did you guys talk about this morning? Manas. This is going to be ahankara or asmita, depending on what lineage you listen to. This is chitta. And this is buddhi. I wish I would have left room because on the other side of buddhi is purusha. Do you remember what purusha is yesterday? That is cosmic consciousness. That is absolute consciousness, right? So buddhi is like a ray of light from the sun, but the sun is purusha. Does that make sense? So it's of the same quality. And different lineages talk about this differently. Jiva sometimes versus Param or Brahman. Okay, so we're going to get into this. So this is your immediate mind. So this is like, oh, I heard a noise over here, right? Oh, I smell spaghetti. This is things that you're aware of. So this is strictly situational awareness, conscious awareness, okay? I'm just going to put CA for conscious awareness. Ahamkara is your sense of ego and your sense of self. So you know, like when you talk to a little kid and you say, how old are you? They say, I am 5.5, right? Or I'm strong, or like kids are always in their ahamkara. They're always demonstrating this because they're developing this part of their brain. They're always like in the I am stage, right? The Tatsat or Ham Brahmasmi, or if you think about Moses, right? What was the message he received from the burning bush? I am. So this is fundamental. We can't really be aware of something if there is nothing that can be aware of it. So we developed this before this. This is a later stage. This is where most of us exist most of the time. Like, I'm hungry. I'm, whatever, grumpy. I'm tired. I'm sick of meditation. Quit talking about yoga. I don't know if I like yoga anymore. In fact, I'm out of here.
Is that what Amber describes as yum yucking?
Yum yucking is kind of a combo between these two.
Okay.
But actually, the belief system around yum yucking happens here. But the interface with what you feel about yum yucking happens here. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the sense of like how I feel about it is stored here, but the memory is stored here. And that's, so let me just say, this is ego, which if this is the conscious awareness, so this is the tip of that pyramid earlier, right? That's your manas, the tip of the pyramid. So ego is the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind affects conscious mind and the unconscious mind. Understand? And it's a binary, by the way. It's a two-way street, actually. So do you believe your conscious mind can affect your subconscious? Yes. And your subconscious can affect your conscious mind. But the only free will we have in that, the only deliberation we have in that, is the conscious mind affecting the subconscious mind. I don't get to choose what I dream about when I sleep, right? I mean, maybe some of you do, and you're great yogi masters, and we'll soon learn this, but most of us are subject to the influence of our subconscious mind because of what's in our unconscious mind. And this is, chitta is memory, karma, which you talked about karma today, right? A little bit. And unconscious mind. Okay, you with me? So this is how most of us work. And think of these as like fields of like, so if I have like lots of, here's what I do. I was walking around the neighborhood like this with Laura today. I have my glasses on, and I had these on, and I go, can you tell I'm wearing my glasses under my sunglasses, Mari? And she goes, yeah, I can tell. And you go, yeah, so you know I'm not out here fishing when I walk in the neighborhood. She goes, yeah, you're definitely not a thirst trap. What I do, but I don't, it's funny, it's no man, but here it is. Like, think about this. So this would be my manas, right? I'm blocking the sun, right? That's the situational awareness. This is so I can see clearly between the inside and outside, so I really know who I am and how I identify with the world. And this is what I'm born with, which is not great eyesight, right? I can't see without these very well. That's my karma, that's my memory, that's all the unconscious mind, things I can't control at all. I have a little bit of control over this, but this also has control over me. This is the only thing I can really control. But I can use this, the conscious mind, to clean these lenses so that ultimately I can see all the way through to Buddhi, which represents superconsciousness. Okay? What does superconsciousness mean? It means that you have insight, influence, and revelation and realization from something greater than yourself and something true, not just narcissistic, egoistic stuff. Because, by the way, revelation is one of the biggest things that you'll get from your sadhana. How do we know the difference between an egoistic revelation versus a revelation from source or cosmic consciousness? How can we tell the difference?
Desire.
What is the desire? What is the attachment involved? And does it harm anybody? Revelation from cosmic consciousness will not harm anybody. Now, that's an interesting thing because your revelation might be, well, my dharma is to go move to California and become a surfer, right? Well, that might harm my wife and my yoga community. But it's not, this is where it gets tricky. This is really where it gets complex. And this is why the sadhana is so intensely important, because it susses this stuff out. These are problems of the brain. If the problem comes from the brain, and I'm trying to use the brain to solve the problem, do we see a problem? You can't use the same, as it's famously said, you can't use the same thinking to solve a problem that the thinking created. Have you heard this?
Yeah, that's why they don't like to use cognitive behavioral therapy with PTSD anymore.
And I think
I
that's,
thought y'all need to know that.
I love that. I agree with it. I think that's fantastic. Who said that, by the way? That you can't use the same thinking.
I
Well,
thought it was Austin.
no. Whenever we don't know who to attribute a quote to in here, it's always Einstein. It's always Einstein, because Einstein gets the most misattributed quotes of any human being alive in the history of the world, I swear. It was probably Judo Krishnamurti who said that, actually. But we could Google that. So, does this make sense a little bit? Is this kind of, to me, I get really pumped about this, because I've been talking a lot with Tony, who some of you know, my little brother, Tony. Some of you met him. And he's at this age where he's really coming up against the limitations of how he can manifest things for himself in his life sheerly of his own free will, right? And in the recovery world, which I come from, I've been, if you don't know, I've been sober from alcohol and marijuana for well over 10 years now, like 11 and then 12 respectively. And it just, it wasn't serving me. There's no shame if anybody likes that stuff. Great. Enjoy it. But the greatest thing that I got from that, besides clarity of minds, is learning about recovery. And in recovery, there's this saying that it's just kind of like an adage: self will run riot. Has anybody heard this? Self will run riot. You have heard this? What does it mean?
There's no control. You're just out of control.
Right. It's really interesting. So there's this concept in yoga called Indra's net. Has anybody heard of this? Boy, there's so much novelty this weekend.
What net is it?
Indra. Indra is one of the archaic deities. Indra is not really worshipped anymore. It's kind of replaced later on. But the concept is really great. And I'm sure there's a mathematical equivalent to this. But Indra's net basically says that we're all connected in a way, in a three-dimensional quantum field. They don't say this in the scriptures,
Yeah.
because they didn't have that word.
Right.
But essentially, if I pull in this way, it's going to create tension around whatever that piece of the net Ryan is connected to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you are trying to live your life from a singular perspective, self-will only, and you don't consider cooperation, coordination, and co-creation with others, because we have been taught to be in a state of competition, right? Well, we're all fighting with the same material to create our own manifest destiny, right? So you may be my friend on the surface, but we may have no idea that unconsciously what you're striving for in your life is actually counter to what I'm striving for in my life. And then if you expand that exponential calculus to 8 billion people, it gets really complex. But here's what makes it even more complex. There's more involved in that relationship than just me and you and every other human being on planet Earth that's pulling on this Hindu's web. All of life, everything that has prana in it is pulling on this web in their own way. And there is a fundamental law to who wins the tug of war. Who wins the tug of war is the one who is the most focused over a long period of time, consistently. Does this sound familiar?
Yoga.
Ooh, mic drop. Yeah. Oh, that one was good. That's going in the book, all right, when I'm dead someday. Okay, that felt good. Let me just smoke a cigarette. I want that to land. Does that make sense? Like, there are a lot of forces against you getting what you want if what you want is based directly on a singular perspective. If everything that you're looking at is just from your ego. If you're stuck here and you see your relationship with the world purely from this point, yes, sometimes it's going to work. Like, sweet, I enrolled in college. Sweet, I graduated college. But other times, the things, so there's this other, you probably know this from any of the Abraham religions, but also in recovery, all the meetings are always ended with the serenity prayer. Help me out here.
Control things I can't, like serenity.
Yeah, God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot control, change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Have you heard this?
Yes.
You know what's really interesting about this? Is it maps on perfectly to yoga. So to accept what I can't control, Ishvara Pranidhana. To know the wisdom between the two, Svadhyaya. To change the things I can, take strength, effort, tapas. Shit. Mic drop. Bam! I love this stuff. So here's the question. What then can we control and what can't we? Without getting surgical about it, pretty much 99.9% of things you can't control. They're not under your control. When you eat a piece of food, are you the one deciding, I'm going to absorb this vitamin C and poop out the fiber? No, it's your gut biome, right? When you go into the sunshine and you're like, I'm going to absorb some vitamin D, but I don't want any of that toxic rays today. Thank you very much, right? I mean, we control for these things with sunscreen and taking a vitamin D supplement because we figured out some things over the years. But ultimately, when we're living life from our small s self, we're pretty much like a fish swimming upstream against all these forces that we're kind of like we've forgotten that they're there. Like a fish forgets it's in water, take a fish out of water and like, oh shit, what's this? You know what I mean? Well, you were in water. You know, try to explain wetness to a fish, right? So you're swimming against all this stuff until you get these revelations, connecting to super consciousness or Buddhi consciousness, and that's why we do the meditation. Okay.
So Buddhi consciousness is the big S self.
Buddhi consciousness is also known, and you're going to learn this. Yes, it is, but it's also known as Vijnana Maya Kosha. Anybody familiar with the Panchamaya Kosha model yet? You will learn it in here. So just so you know, you've got the physical, right? That's the outside of the sheaths. Annamaya Kosha. You know these? To some degree. Then it's the energy body, the Pranamaya Kosha. Then it's the mental body, Manomaya Kosha. Then the two core sheaths or bodies are Vijnanamaya Kosha and then Anandamaya Kosha. That's the final one. Nanda meaning bliss. Yeah. So what
They
we're
go
trying
from out to in.
out to in.
Cool.
That's one way it's viewed. But like if I have, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here's my physical, right? Here's my energetic. Here's my mental. And I'm trying to get to here, to Vijnanamaya Kosha. This is wisdom. So I'm gonna put a W there. These are like filters as well. These are like lenses as well that cloud our perspective. Because if I'm feeling shitty in my body, do you think that's going to affect my ability to my energy? Do you think that's going to affect my energy? Do you think that's going to affect my brain wave state and my thought patterns? Yeah. So what do we do in yoga to establish a state of balance, clarity, peace, and harmony in the Annamaya Kosha, the physical body? Yeah. Say it with me. Asana. That's what we, and that's generally where we're if you've got suffering going on in your Manomaya Kosha, it's probably going to affect everything else now. So it's really interesting because, everybody has mental, emotional, mood issues, and then it just collects over time and then becomes cold depression, then turns into a psychosomatic effect, right? Turns into a physical issue. A lot of times, like that was one of my big realizations in the last 10 years of doing sadhana is one of the big first layers to peel off around revelation for me was to recognize so much of my physical tension were because of my psychic tension. Because of, I am still to this day, even realizing I'm still so rigid in my belief systems. And so like, I can get like, when I'm really at my worst, man, I am like really scared, how like stupid I am. It is silly how freaking idiotic I am, but it's just human. It's just, I'm not the murderer. All right. So how then do we cleanse the kosha of energy body?
Breath.
Say it with your chest.
Pranayama.
Yes, pranayama. How do we cleanse the Manomaya Kosha? Meditation, baby. Yeah, and you can't, it's going to be a lot harder to do that with peaceful abiding, open monitoring practices because you're going to get varied results. But with a focused meditation like yoga meditation, chakra kundalini meditation, or also known as, say this with me, Bhuta Shuddhi meditation, you're going to get a specific result which cleanses this like this so that you can perceive all the way to superconscious state, to Buddhi state. When we're talking about sattva has levels, right? So like, here's tamas, it starts over here. We move to rajas, right? Somewhere in the middle, we balance sattva, but there's a third dimension to that, how elevated we can make sattva. The more elevated we can make sattva, because you might be sattvic here and that just stops it right there. You might just be like, oh, I'm really aware of my ego. I'm really aware of like, I'm the one reacting to Seb's text of whatever, bro, right? But I can't see the other side. I can't get to a clarity. I can't get to a solution around it. That means my soft is just stuck here. I know I'm the problem, but I don't know what the solution is. Then I might realize, oh, this is why the problem is, right? This is as far as behavioral cognitive therapy takes us, right? It gets into our karma, it gets into our memories and says, oh, now I know why I have an avoidant attachment theory or avoidant attachment, right? Because of the way I was raised, because of the way I was loved by my mom. And sometimes knowing the why of things is really useful. But like you said, with PTSD, you can know the why of all day long, but if it's stored in your cells, like, you know, my other sister right now, to share something personal with you. And by the way, this is sacred space. What we share in here is confidential, both ways. But, you know, she's struggling with alcohol, like literally, really has ruined her life the last 2 years, almost killed herself. The alcohol, that's not a choice. You know what I mean? That's not like something behavioral cognitive, like figuring out, oh, you were abused by your father who's now dead. Yeah, it's my stepsister, by the way. Yeah, she was. She figured it out, and he was an addict. So now she knows the reason why she's an addict. But guess what? Does it stop her actions? Absolutely not. So we need access to go further and beyond. And you've all had this experience, by the way. I know this is an abstract model of this, but you have all, I guarantee you would not be here if you all didn't have revelations at some point, to some degree. And the cool thing is it was the revelation that was perfectly packaged for you at the perfect time for you in your life. And so sometimes we get these things and we go, well, shit, how am I going to explain this to my partner? I need to move to California to surf, right? Well, that's everything else has to figure that out. And that's sometimes why we close this door, why we lock it up and put duct tape on it. So it won't threaten the safety of the things that our self-will has crafted for what we think is a life of not quiet desperation, as Henry David Thoreau would say, right? Yeah. It's a lot. Do we need to dance again?
I'm thinking about this, because I've taught history in like a lot of different states. And what we teach high school students, essentially, you're governed by your base evolution of a hunter-gatherer.
Yeah.
And so you're basically operating from the ego of I have to eat, and it's determining your monitoring action, your conscious actions, right?
Both of those. This is your primordial brain, by the way, is ruled by your lower three chakras, your survival instinct. And by the way, that root chakra, I did want to follow up on connecting this to the olfactory sense. The olfactory sense is found in the reptilian brain, which is the part of your brain that is connected to the root chakra. Most nerve connections between the pelvic floor and the reptilian brain exist in the body. So when we have a sense of memory through smell, it connects into the same neural pathways. So also the sense of smell is bound to karma. So think about, like, you know, when I think about my mom's spaghetti, oh God, I could cry thinking about it because I'll never get it again, you know? But like her spaghetti, and it was just a can of Hunt's, you know what I mean? But like, God, like that smell, like if I smell that now, it just takes me back to a specific place and time, which karma represents a place and time. Yeah, well, yeah. More?
So that primordial vacillation between those two areas in our chakras, in our energy, in our brain, whatever, it determines our conscious awareness. And like
Which leads our conscious awareness this way. It leads our
Right.
attention that way towards what's around us. And so if this is my sense of source, my sense of core is everything's trying to kill me and I got to stay alive, then everything I look at becomes this relationship of survival. And then you build on that, which is good and bad. And then you build on that to competition, to control it.
So
and have
that's
power over it.
basically, we evolved backwards to survive physically, but what you're saying is now we need to evolve the opposite way to
We just have
evolve
to-
spiritually.
Here's the word. It's not, don't think of it linearly, because there were definitely times in history, according to the yogis, where they were much more spiritually evolved.
They
So,
they who? People with
Human
access
beings.
or human beings?
human beings.
Huh.
Human beings were much more spiritually evolved at different times, according to yoga shastras in different eras. So this threat of survival was different at different times. The sad thing is we don't have any written record past 5,000 to 10,000 years ago. You know, like I've been to the ruins in England. They're 30,000 years old, and we're still just kind of like, you know what I mean? We're like, wow, this is cool, but like, what? How did they get these 30,000 ton rocks from 300 miles away over here, right? And why? And we, you know, so we don't know a lot about pre-agrarian society. We don't know. We know that, like, you know, we can look back into some of the tribal history and know that like things were falling apart as things developed, as more tribes became more powerful. They warred more for territory, for control, for resources. And then everybody thought, oh, our savior is the agrarian society. Now we don't have to be nomadic. We can plant and we have enough food for everybody. This is going to solve all of our problems. All the while forgetting all along that we're also spiritual beings. So rather than think of it linearly, think about it as this is just the mode we're in. We are born with this, oh, this is the situation. This is the situation in which my body, my mind, and my environment are interacting with it. What the yogis have mapped out is techniques that give you access to transcend the way in which you just suffer this. And it's little by little, it's step by step. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of time and a lot of devotion. That's why, again, how does practice succeed according to Sutra 113, is it? Or 114? Consistency, long time. And what's the other one?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. Sometimes also known as reverence.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, and I like reverence the best. So that's why Sankalpa is so important, because that establishes that reverence. That establishes how we're doing this stuff. Yeah, so this is good food for thought, yeah?
Yeah, quick question about the food for thought.
Yeah.
That's a kosher bottle?
This is,
Yeah, bottle left.
yeah.
We're gonna learn more about that, so use it to work with private.
Yep.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, and I do want to just give those of you who like really get this well, just one little foreshadowing. Vijnanamaya Kosha, the wisdom body, sometimes will misguide you purposefully. So just know that. Know that. Sometimes you'll be like, but it's a revelation. I got this from my Buddha. Yeah, and you must do it. But it's also going to not lead you where you think you're going.
To get the lessons you need to grow.
The Native Americans call this the coyote energy, right? Like in some tribes, they would call this the trickster. It gets you on a path that if you knew where it was going, you would never start it.
Right.
So it tricks you with the kind of a carrot at the end of the stick. But then once you're in it, you realize this is exactly what I needed, actually. Yeah. So it's only the Ananda Maya Kosha that we tap into with Samadhi that we can really be free from all of the influence of this one right here. It completely quiets the ego. Again, we're not trying to kill the ego, just trying to get the ego to where we see the full shape and size of it and recognize its influence on us. And it's part of our karma. Even great masters who like got to the place, right, in their lifetime. Some of them still die of diabetes. Some of them still die at 50. You know what I mean? Guess what? They all die because they're still human. That's the whole thing. We can't transcend. We can't focus so much on being spiritual that we transcend being human. Can't forget that they're all connected. Sometimes we do. Okay.
Did you want to come back to absorption?
Oh, yeah, object. Let's talk about objects. So we're going to spend the next little while talking about meditation postures so that the physical body is as comfortable as possible to support all of the work we're doing with our focus. So recognize that yoga meditation requires a great deal of focus. And by the way, if you get to the end of your sadhana and you're very tired, you've spent a lot of your focus, right? If you think of your focus as a fuel tank and you get to your meditation, you're like, well, this just sucks. Well, just find a different place to do it. Find a place where you're like, you're not exhausted once you start the meditation, right? I do want to talk about objects, but actually, okay, let's do this. So with pranayama, there's going to be layers that we add on to it, right? So for instance, there's going to be mantra, there's going to be visualization that eventually come up to Nadi Shuddhi. Oh, Bhuta Shuddhi too. I want to tell you this. So this is what we're talking about now. We're talking specifically about the chakra meditation. So again, say chakra kundalini meditation is yoga meditation. Is Bhuta Shuddhi. You've heard the word Shuddhi before. Where have you heard this? Huh? Nadi Shuddhi, exactly. It's a specific type of purification that deals with purifying specifically the mind. Where have you heard the word Uddhi? Uddhi? Shuddhi. Shuddhi purifies the mind. So Bhuta means ghosts. So the ghosts are your old karmas, your old memories, your old belief patterns, conditioned states and ways of being known as samskaras and vasanas. Are you familiar with those terms yet? A little bit? Okay. So Bhuta Shuddhi, you're purifying the ghosts. And the ghosts live, as we taught you in the 200 hour. Remember, we talked about the chakras as psychological locations. So like the root chakra, it's the reptilian brain. Second chakra represents limbic brain. Third chakra, the primate brain. Fourth chakra, humanoid brain circuitry, right? So in each of these, we have our individual forces and karmas, and then we have ancestral inheritances of fight or flight. Like nobody gets to choose, I'm just not going to be a fighter or a flighter, right? Like we all have a nervous system. We're all kind of in the game. So when we're talking about purifying the ghosts, we don't, again, not become human through this meditation. But what we do is limit and get into a healthier, more harmonious relationship with these influences over our life. So for instance, this chakra meditation that we're going to continue to develop, and I'm going to teach you one more step today. We're going to kind of recall the things we learned in our 200 hour about each of these locations and how they represent both something of danger to us, something of limiting or limitation to us, but also something of like, so for instance, your root chakra, right? It is the source of fear and survival, fight or flight. But what's the benefit of that?
Survival.
Yeah, sometimes you need to have adrenaline. You do need to have cortisol pumping through your system. So if I can, and then so for instance, my heart chakra, the benefit of the heart chakra, well, when it's way out of balance, maybe I'm a big pushover, right? Or maybe I'm way codependent if I have too much heart chakra energy. But if I can balance it just right, I can be kind and loving and compassionate and empathetic appropriately for my boundary and my needs and to contribute for others, right? So this meditation not only balances the energy in the chakras, this is the thing everybody wants to know in the 200 hour. How do I balance my energies in the chakras? Number one, it's Bhuta Shuddhi. But also, here's the other thing that's probably the more important thing of all this, is that it allows you to basically learn to play your chakras like a xylophone. It's like doing your scales on a piano. You go da 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 da. So then when you have to hit a G chord, boom, you know where a G chord is. Then when you have to hit a root chakra, boom, you know where a root chakra is. But you're not hitting a root chakra when circumstances aren't calling for a root chakra because you're well practiced and you have a relationship with the chakras. Does that make sense? Isn't that cool? Explain it to me like I'm 5, guys. Does it make sense? I feel like there's some questions.
Like in music, you know, it needs like one after another makes the right sound.
Yeah.
But if you just hit one chord, it's like startling. Is it the same with your chakras?
I'm not sure I follow the
So
question.
like if you're trying to balance energy in your heart chakra,
Yeah.
like you feel like that one is one off. Do you need to like check in with your third eye, check
Ah.
in with your root?
So here's the technique. Here's the technique. The technique just does the thing. Don't worry about how it does the thing. Just know that like the two most important things are you're always working with all 6 chakras at the same time. Anytime you need to work with one specific chakra, and this is a later add-on to so Bhuta Shuddhi is it develops further. You eventually get to the 7th chakra through kumbhakas and visualization, and then eventually you bring in that Ishta Devata. Remember this term? You bring that vision of the divine into these upper chakras. You focus on one chakra at a time. So only at a pretty advanced stage of really working your scales do you ever start to go, I'm meditating specifically on one chakra. But that doesn't preclude the fact that in life, you're going to find yourself in circumstances that require you to be in a specific chakra to succeed. But this chakra will always, or this chakra work will always activate the command center to work with that chakra, whether you know it or not. So whenever I'm in my third chakra, but I'm working cooperatively with people, using my power for right versus using my power over people, using power with versus power over, that's because it's in conjunction with my third eye. This overcomes the shadow side of this. And that will just happen with this, because this is what's doing the whole Bhuta Shuddhi, is this chakra, right? Does that make sense for your question? Okay, that was a really deep question. I like that. What other questions do we have about this? Do you want to try it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it and then we'll take a break. Okay? Are you with me? Who's going down the 300 road with me? Okay, so again, the benefit of this meditation, as Amber taught, it burns up karma, right? It gets us in touch with divine revelation, cosmic consciousness, higher intelligence, big S self, super consciousness, however you want to say it. But it also allows us to have more flexibility of mind and also freedom from past conditionings, right? Our samskaras. Do you want that? Would you're like, no, I'll just keep doing the same things? I've had better. Okay. But also, let me tell you this, that in 9 months, you're not going to master it. And you're not going to get masterful of all the things I'm talking about. You're going to have little insights along the way. But I've been doing this for, probably close to 11 years. And I can tell you that I had a massive breakthrough 2 years ago. So you just have to trust me, and every lab rat who's been through the 300-hour, that like, if you just do it even when it's hard, even when it's, like, you just have to be consistent with it. Number one, even when you can't find the reverence, guess what? You can't do it for a long period of time if you're not being consistent. So those are the two prerequisites. Those are step 1 and step 2. Consistency. Then do that for a long period of time. Then really focus on, when can I bring the reverence in? But if you don't have the reverence, you have to have Shraddha. Has anybody heard this term, Shraddha? Shraddha is faith. So obviously you're in 300-hour because hopefully you don't think Amber, Laura, or I are charlatans, right? We are trying to teach you like the stuff, right? That was taught to us, that we practice, like we walk this walk. This is the practices we do in our life. So yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
I want to encourage you that you're going to, if you're practicing this, have days where it is horrible, it doesn't work. And there will be days where you come into it and you think it's going to be that. And usually that's the day where the breakthrough happens. Usually it's, you maybe have already experienced this with teaching. It's the day that you don't feel like you're at your best. You're doubting yourself. You're questioning why you're even doing this, that all of a sudden the thing is going to happen that's going to refill your cup. Now that doesn't happen every single time. I've still had days where I've sat down to do this meditation, like this is going to be terrible, and I'm like, I didn't succeed at that at all. But then I just trust that the next day is going to be better. And so just like all the things, just recommitting yourself, but also be open, because sometimes those days where you're feeling really down about it, those can be the days where you actually find the thing that you're looking for.
Bryce, what does success look like for you? Like,
Hang on,
how
Maury.
do you
I'll
know?
get you in 1 second. Kathy said, what does success look for you now, Bryce?
So I've had successes with this meditation in terms of like reaching those moments of clarity and like profound senses of peace, and that set that we were talking about before. There's been periods of selflessness, but I've especially found like moments of timelessness. There were periods when I was consistently practicing this meditation where every day I was trying to sit down and do it for like 10 to 12-ish minutes. I wouldn't have a timer, but it always worked out to be that. And there were days where I would sit down and do that and I could feel every single second of that 10 minutes. And there were other days where I would sit down and I would come out of it and I'm like, holy cow, it's been 20 minutes and I had no clue. And so, you know, some of those things start to happen and then there'll be subtle changes just outside of the meditation that you might start to sense as well.
You know, it's ironic as humans that our sense of karma, our sense of karmic debt is so lacking of urgency because our need for survival has been so predominant, right? So this is a practice that is about, it's not about survival, right? This predisposes that you are already in a safe place, right? This is a practice now where we're working on the karma side of things, but it takes just as much effort as it would to run from, you know, saber-tooth tiger. It takes just as much focus. So it's hard to get the brain around doing something that we've been kind of taught our whole life to just put off, right? Like when Amber says yoga is the art of personal accountability, think about what it took for you to get to that point in your life, right? And now this is just furthering down into that road. Mari had a question here.
So this process is cyclical in nature, right? Like,
Oh, hang on. Say that again.
this process is cyclical in nature, right? Like, it's not like you're gonna like reach this liberation and then like be there for the rest of your life forever. It's like you're gonna still encounter those like samkaras or like any sort of vritti that gets you in like a cycle that yoga then is able to help you recognize that you're in the cycle and then come out of it, and it like loops back around, right?
100%. And what you said is really valuable. I hope you all kind of unpacked what she said, that it is not going to anytime soon fix everything, but it will fix little things along the way that will fix other little things in ways that at first this is the practice that we spend so much time trying to encourage you around, because in the beginning it feels so unrewarding because you're just not going to get anywhere where you're like really like getting like, you know, Austin is really easy to just like, you know, if I said do a minute of mountain climbers, there's an immediate reaction. You're going to feel the response while that happens. I would say that for the first several years, I didn't realize how this meditation was shaping my life off the mat, because it certainly wasn't even affecting me during the meditation. It took me years to the point where I was like, oh, and all of a sudden something clicked. I'm like, I'm getting to a place while I'm doing meditation now. And that becomes that's a huge milestone. And that might happen in a few months. It might happen in a few years. But notice that it will, I promise you, even if you don't feel the effects of it during the meditation, it will start to change things outside of the meditation in your life that you'll be like, and if you don't recognize it, remember, we talked about this with peak experiences. We don't get the full import of them if we don't integrate them and reflect on them, right? So we have to take time for svadhyaya as well with all this.
Also do the same thing you said yesterday about great changes.
I would say, yeah, milestones are, that's a great, I'd say big trait changes are milestones. You know, now I'm in a place with it where it's like, it feels very much like a vitamin, that if I'm not doing it, something is deeply missing from my life. And I'll just like, things will start to go haywire in ways that like, I can't figure out like, why did I lose my temper there? Or why am I so upset? Or why am I so neurotic or anxious or whatever it is, suffering all the things, you know, and I'm like, but I'm not the murderer. Oh, I haven't meditated for, 4 days, 9 days, and that happens even at this level. It's one of those things that it's the easiest thing when life ramps up to scrape off your plate. And yet it doesn't ask you anything more than just to be present with it. And it will supply for all of the things that pile on your plate. That's the weird thing, but it's counterintuitive. It's not survival-based need. So you have to motivate yourself. It's different than like food that we talked about yesterday. We have the need to survive. Like I need to be this amount of full to live. I know that, right? But some people also eat to have pleasure. Well, this meditation, there's no homeostatic drive. You don't recognize it as such. It's blind. You're blind to the homeostatic motivating factor of it. So you have to just trust it until eventually you get some pleasure out of it. And that might be a long time with this one, okay?
Can I? one small
Please
comment
do,
on top
please,
of that?
Yeah.
This is a little spoiler alert. I think you'll cover it in the first Gita section you do next month. But the Gita tells us that no effort in spiritual practice is ever wasted. So even when it's just those little drips, it's not like personally, I let my meditation practice go and I didn't want to, but life circumstances made it difficult, and it was the thing that fell off my plate. But even just this weekend, starting to come back to it, there's steps back from where I was in terms of like reaching certain states, but it's not gone. It's still there, and there's now a foundation that I can come back to and start building on. I'm not starting back where I was before I even started to
Definitely.
trust that too.
That's definitely true. Okay. Good conversation. Good discussion. Okay. So we're going to add on. So what are the steps here? What's my body doing? Upright. What's a stable body called? Kaya Stiram. Jnana Mudra. Yes, or Akasha Mudra. This is also known as Dhyana Mudra. Yeah, and this can rest just in your lap. This is Dhyana Mudra. Sitting up tall, I'm allowing about 80% of my lung capacity to work with this, right? I'm breathing belly, ribs, chest. So let's just try that real quick. Breathe into your belly, sitting up. Then feel your ribs. Expand out, then your chest up. Now we're going to take it down. Chest. Ribs, belly. So is it my lungs moving my body in this way? No, it's me moving my body this way. So it's really important to understand that you have to do the work until this becomes second nature. It's just like we were talking about learning and driving. You're like, I am changing lanes now. My blinker shall be on, right? Pretty soon, just breathing in this manner is like, I'm changing lanes. It's just automatic, okay? Next thing is tracking the red line up and down with the breath. I'm gonna add one more thing on here because we're gonna add the chakras now. Actually, would you write down the bijas while I do this? So we're gonna have the red line. And by the way, who could see the red line this morning? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, that's way more than usual. The visualization is a hard thing because not only are we so visually focused, like I said, the largest mechanism in our brain is our visual cortex. But because of that, we're so reliant on external stimulation. So we're actually using a different neural pathway to visualize than when we're looking at something, when I'm scrolling or whatever, right? So we're going to visualize the red line piercing through each chakra. And it's going to be a white light for now. It's going to turn into lotuses with numbers of petals and colors and then yantras and elements, all this later on. But for now, it's just going to be a red line piercing through a white light at each location chakra. As it pierces through the location, you're going to, in your mind, chant the bija, akshara, the bija sound, the root sound, seed sound of each. So you'll learn these. It's just 6. So you go up, as I breathe in, I'm like, Lam, say it with me. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham, Om. Touch this, touch your body with me. This will just help you learn it. Om, Ham, Yam, Ram, Vam, Lam. Now, I want you to close your eyes and imagine, let's just do that a few times. And I want you to imagine a white light at each of these locations in the interior of the body, right at the front of the spine. So if here's the spine, we've got the chakra sitting right in front of it, okay? So it moves up. So close the eyes with me. Lam, and you can touch Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham, Om, Om, Ham, Yam, Ram, Vam, Lam. So that white light flashes right when that bija akshara strikes. So when you hear it interiorly. So now we're binding the sense of the ears, right? We've got the physical sense binded, tongue, we've got the taste binded, We've got Mula Bandha, finding the olfactory. I hope that was a satisfactory answer for you, by the way, earlier. Okay. We've got the eyes with the visualization of the red line piercing through the white lights. And now we've got the ears with the bija sound. Okay. And by the way, what directs all of it? Prana. The breath is the engine, right? Body's vehicle, breath is the engine, and the mind is, the passenger, really. Okay. So let's try it. Get your Kaya Steeram with your Jnana Mudra. Very simply, just begin to breathe in three. So start with the 3-part breath. Breathe in, belly, ribs, chest, exhale. And go at your own pace, by the way. You don't have to be matching. You need to find your own lung capacity, and it's okay wherever you're at. The next time you come down, you're going to allow the red line to come up. And down on the exhale. Just about a minute with just the red line. Feel it, sense it, imagine it. Just make sure your eyes are turned up and in, your tongue folded in, back in on itself. We won't be long with this meditation, so you can put some effort into that. Different lengths of meditation, you might be more or less gentle with that. Next time you come down, we will add on the first full layer of chakra. So the white light spark when you move through with the bija sound. So if you don't know, you can look up at the board and just kind of get refreshed and just watch it and look up and see it at first. Feeling the white light strike. One more minute. Really be present with it. Give it your best effort. Focus. See if you can find a flow state. Finish your next exhale, returning consciousness back down to the root chakra. And then relax the technique. You can open the eyes when you're done. Okay, let's talk. How did that go? Visualization's hard. Okay, so what you can do at first is just Om in each one of them. If this is really new and you're not getting it yet, Om into them until you start to get the visualization, until you start to get the rhythm, the breath, everything synced up. And then the next step will be getting the bija sounds, okay? And then just so you know, the roadmap ahead, eventually you get to a point where you are bija striking twice in each chakra. So the breath slows down even more as you get more sattvic. and it's lam, lam, vam, vam. And each addition of repetition, you add on another layer. So it moves from a white light to 2 strikes is a white lotus at each location. And then 3 bijas becomes the number of petals. So 4, 6, 10, 12, 16, 2. Then colors. Is it colors
I
first?
thought it was colors.
Oh, it might be. I don't remember. Yeah, but 3 might be colors. 4 might be petals. Either one, switch it up. And then 5, then you see the yantra inside. 6 is the but you don't need to think to yourself, oh, I need to get to 6 to get to the point where I'm doing 7th chakra stuff. What you need to do is establish this certain amount of repetitions that is appropriate for your lung capacity. So for me, on any given day, it's 3 to 5 bijas per chakra.
Manual has colors and petals.
Colors and petals. Thank you. So this is all in your manual, by the way, of how you can advance this. But you know, in 9 months, you probably won't get past 2 bijas, I'm guessing, because you don't go from lam, vam, ram to lam, lam, vam, vam, ram. You don't speed it up. It's still lam, lam, vam. It's still the same ratio as you add on. Why do you think it becomes more complex over time? Speak up a little bit more. Amy, yes.
Mind gets used to it, you need to keep training it.
Yeah, your mind gets, these things become automatic, so we just intensify the focus of them. Because as the mind gets more automatic with this, we're actually tapping into more of the unconscious mind via the senses. So as these layers get easier, that means we're actually focusing, remember that pyramid? We're actually focusing the unconscious mind through the conscious mind more accurately. And so we just want to make that more intense. So we add on to it. And eventually you'll get to a point where you're established in the extent of your lung capacity, which you'll develop through pranayama to kind of inform you of what that appropriateness is. Then eventually you start to add kumbhakas on, holds, and then you'll bring prana into the 7th chakra. You'll bring it down below the root chakra, and then you'll just do double up wave for a while, and then you'll have Ishtadevata. Talk to me in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and we'll get to those levels. But for probably the first 3 years, you're just doing probably going to get to 3 to 5 bija sounds, visualizing the chakras. And I just want you to recognize that the reason we're choosing chakras, does anybody know why? So this is back to that final thing I wanted to wrap up with samadhi. Absorption into, and remember that took me on a whole level of samadhi. I said same D, mind, the same mind. So my buddhi is allowing my ego to see the same mind as Purusha. That's what samadhi is absolute revelation, right? With no trickery from Vijnanamaya Kosha. But why do we choose a chakra to become absorbed in? Why do we focus on this object specifically?
Because it helps hold the channel prana.
It does. It helps hold the channel prana, but it's also in the Shastra,
Systematical.
It's systematical. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Clearing the seeds of karma.
Clearing the seeds of karma this way. Yeah. In the Shastras, whenever you learn more about yoga and meditation, pure yoga meditation, you're going to recognize that it's always generally with an object. So this whole business of, okay, sit down and clear your mind, having no object, is ridiculous. That's really hard to do. Like you would all, like this is like the 7th level of samadhi, right? And it's funny that like this is in the West how we start meditation practitioners. We're like, here, take the hardest form of meditation. No wonder nobody does it. So in yoga, it's always about focusing on an object. You focus on it, then you become into a flow state with it. And then that relationship intensifies till you lose your sense of ego and you become absorbed in it. Well, you always want to choose an object that is sacred, because if you are becoming absorbed in it, you are going to engender all of the attributes of that thing. So it needs, you're only ever in yoga, ever going to meditate on sacred objects, because they elevate you. It's something greater than your small s self. And the chakras are, when they're clear of their ghosts, when they're purified of the Bhuta, when the Buddha is shooting, they're sacred objects. So actually, when we visualize them as lotuses, when we bring the color into them, when we chant into them, we're actually creating Bob in these locations. So we're rewiring at a fundamental level these little state changes to create big trait changes. When I'm chanting Lam into my root chakra, I'm bringing a sacred sound into my reptilian brain. I'm creating different neural pathways. Okay, let's take 9 minutes. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Cool. See you 12:20.
Chanting using your head,
Yeah.
you're still getting the same.
The more subtle chanting becomes, the more powerful it is. So and that's the same thing with anything with yoga. The more forceful and physical something is, the less effective it is. So really everything in yoga is about moving from density to subtlety. And so the techniques, the more we can make them subtle, like breath, like when we're doing Nadi Shuddhi, the softer we can make that, but still hold the same level of intensity, the more effective it's going to be. Yep. That's the Sukham. Ooh,
How cool
that is super cool.
It is, and I love the colors. That's interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
And it just can go smaller or bigger and stay the same.
Which is known as a fractal, right?
It is a fractal, yes, it's exactly what it is.
Mandelbrot fractal. Mandelbrot.
Yes,
fractal.
Mandelbrot.
Yeah.
Mandelbrot. It's almond bread is his name.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, that's what that,
Mandelbrot.
I was
isn't
I feel
it?
like that might be the one. Yeah,
It is an alarm. It's an alarm.
it is.
Did I feel like we talked about it, but did I send you the article about quantum
No,
air
where is
correcting fields?
Huh?
Did I send you the article about quantum air correcting fields?
Oh, that's really cool.
This sounds
I feel like I had a conversation. But it's
I'm so cool.
also I was
I
thinking
couldn't make it like really like
gravity, just gravity.
like how many people are going. It's kind of like, oh my God.
everything in the field affects the field, and then
Yes,
it's
yes.
denser. So like,
Common that most people don't realize that that's how gravity works.
Yeah.
Most people think that it's
I love that.
more reductive, it's just being pulled towards a large mass. They realize it's in the field. And that's part of why it works like that.
but that's why like
Hmm?
I was thinking about you were bringing up the complexity and it, like the fact that as soon as we have more than two bodies, we can't actually accurately calculate gravity.
Erica,
Hi,
hey,
how's it going?
good.
Good,
How are you?
good. I'm just, waiting for y'all to hit lunch so I can say hi.
We're not quite at lunch.
Okay.
These people aren't gonna get a lunch today.
Just gotta go there all the way.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. I get a little excited when I go too far and I go, wait a minute, what?
Sounds all right.
You get lost.
These are good.
I'll just.
You're
I'm gonna
welcome.
try them at lunch. I was like,
These are like.
I was like, I really want to make you something, but we're not at the point of me cooking for other people. We're at the point of me making lotus balls for other
Those
people.
are perfect. So thank you.
What to see how these others balls from?
Bye.
You just met, you brought them others balls today? Oh, that's sweet. I got no others balls.
Can I have something for you though? I wanted to tell you about my friend Marshall.
Oh, boy. Nothing more interesting to hear about other people's
I know,
dreams.
I know your philosophy on that, and I couldn't share.
Yeah,
So I got a call
I
from.
like hearing about dreams, but I just wish you like making airplanes. Enjoy killing you. But
I did though. I was trying to readjust my. That was genuine in that. statement, that I'm trying to readjust my thoughts.
Because you think it's wasteful.
I know, but that's an old thing that I'm
Of
trying
all
to
the
let go
things
of.
that are wasteful in the world,
I know.
that's really weird.
It's my own little thing that I can control. It's-
But you can, I'm making.
I know, and that's good, that's the way it should be.
Ah, okay. Great.
So you called me. You were like, by the way, I live in Europe, you know?
I'm in California.
You gotta serve.
That was my metaphor.
It was so bad. I was like sobbing uncontrollably. I was just like, in my dream, I did not get the memo. This is not real. And Austin was not, and I'm just sobbing. And I was like, oh, this is how we should be knowing that. I was very upset
I
at
do,
your absence.
and you should be, I would be too if you were once a year. I have something to show you. This is fun. Oh, that one, sure. What do you know when with you? I think it comes out. With Bryce with this matter.
Oh, yeah.
First weekend last year.
Yep.
What's that? Yeah, yeah. And then, Monarch. This is also a nice question. Boy. Yeah, Bryce. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Since, yeah. I was trying to learn it now. Oh, wait, I got one.
Yeah, I tried snowboarding and they're just like, I was on a small hill, there's 20 kids.
Oh, my God.
This is incriminating for all of us. This is so funny, all of us, like, in this awkward, right here in my face. We're like, you're shoving in the corner by the door, like, just driving my mom out. Angela, like, she's here. I like saying, like, you're not having a wow, I got it.
Not my vibe. Maybe I would.
Hey, we're gonna talk about Union.
Oh,
I just, tomorrow was the last day officially with the youth at Maybe March. So I'm trying to give them a heads up.
yeah,
in terms
go
of-
through March.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to, yeah, I think we're doing it. I'll wait. No, no.
I think I guess.
Quick question. If you were all to do a yin training, would you rather do it on a Saturday or a Sunday? Raise your hand for
Saturday.
Saturday?
7 hour training.
7 hour training, Saturday. Sunday.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
what did you say?
I'm confused.
If you were to do a 7 hour new training,
Uh-huh.
would you prefer for it to be on a Saturday or a Sunday?
Saturday.
So raise your hand for
I don't
Saturday?
care.
Saturday.
Or it does.
Sunday.
So 2 to 4
Let's do it.
Saturday.
Let's do it.
I feel like for people who work, then they could have Sunday off to recover and then they could go back to work on Monday.
That was my thinking. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I have to remember that some people work.
Do it Saturday.
And we can use it. It's your training.
No, let's do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Both will get flyers made up. It's good to see you. both.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so glad you
Yes. Yes.
Well, maybe either this week or.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
are you all okay for 40 minutes? We're going to now just quickly talk about, and usually we spend a little more time with this, but I want to give you time with each other in small groups to talk about some different stuff. We're just going to spend some time about Kaya Steeram now and focusing on classical meditation asanas. So obviously, and if you would write some of these down, and by the way, that's, I didn't spell that right. There's 2 T's, Bhuta Shuddhi. But if all asana is meant to focus on preparing us for meditation, really the big piece of that is creating, if our body's full of all these muscles and tendons and ligaments, imagine they're like springs and pulleys, right? Well, if some of my springs and pulleys are really tight and some are really open, it might change the way my body sits in a restful position. Eventually, we want to get springs and pulleys balanced in a way to where when I take a meditation seat, I'm balanced so I can just rest here, right? This is actually the most comfortable position I can take is the one that is conducive to pranic flow, right? So the main meditation postures, classical meditation postures are Siddhasana, 2 Ds, if you don't remember. So Siddha means accomplishment. So this is just accomplished pose. There is one called Svastikasana, like swastika, but remember, swastika predates Hitler. It was originally a Hindu symbol. Yeah, everybody know this. And it was flipped the other way around and clicked 15 degrees this way or whatever. Yeah, and it actually means like like harmony, the exact opposite of everything he used it for. But we don't call this pose swastikasana. We just simply call this auspicious pose. Does anybody know what auspiciousness is? Yeah, good luck, good fortune. Yeah. Yeah. A good sign. Then there is, yes, the prayer flags. Yeah. Then there is Sukhasana. So this is just known as easy pose, right? And let me just show you. There's Sukhasana right here, crossed legs. Here is Svastikasana. Sorry, Mari. You're gonna get a real great view of my crotch, but just bear with. Okay, so Sukhasana is like crisscross applesauce, right? This isn't super conducive to pranic flow. Why? What is the tilt in my hips? Yeah. Posterior. Say it together. Posterior. For pranic flow, I need anterior, which I can do in this pose, but it puts a lot of tension in my hips, and I can't sustain this for a very long period of time. So what's better than that is auspicious pose. So auspicious pose, I take my left heel in, I put it right into my perineum, right in between the genitalia and the anus. And when I say anus, I always use a southern accent just to soften a little bit. Okay. And then my other ankle is kind of right in front of it. So my ankles are lined up. What this just did, it widens my surface area. So I have more contact with the earth, right? Sukhasana here, I'm on my butt bones and my ankles, right? So not only does this straighten my spine up, especially if I put something under my butt, but now I have surface area under my thighs and under my shins. Thank you. Whatever those things are called. I couldn't think of it. Siddhasana is where you tuck the feet in between here and here. So have you seen this one? You stack the ankles. So I kind of have to get up to get in. So I tuck my toes in between the calf and the thigh there, and I grab these ones, pull it there. This is Siddhasana. Huh? No, not yet. Not lotus. Huh?
Oh, nothing.
Oh. Yeah, so Siddhasana is not accessible for most people because you have to have pretty extreme ankle flexion. You have to have this kind of flexion, which is what? What is it called? Point plantar flexion, right?
How did you do that again?
So I'll lean forward. I'm going to just tuck those toes in between my, thigh and calf. And then I grab the other foot and pull it up in between the thigh and calf. So this is a really great bind. And by the way, this is a fantastic pose if you're struggling with your second chakra. If your second chakra, if you're like, if you have like porn addiction or sexual trauma or stuff like that, this is what yogis would say, like, this is the pose you should meditate in, because it will shut down the second chakra in terms of it being anything other than just bringing light. It kind of pulls the shadow out of it. Siddhasana, so accomplished pose. And what's that? Oh, it might. But what I'm saying is that, like, you know, you start to, what we're going to experiment with today is what is going to be your meditation pose, and what do you have to do in your asana posture class to make it more comfortable. So for me, my knees, I don't feel anything in this, but also this isn't my pose. I do all of my meditation in Svastikasana, right? Because I don't like the way that feels on my ankles. This is really sustainable for me. I can sit here for, you know, upwards of an hour without having to switch anything. Yeah.
In Svastikasana, like, I guess it doesn't feel right for me to have my other foot on the floor. Like, can you have it here but not tucked in?
You can.
Or is that, it's just whatever?
No, if you like that, you just get less surface area. So just, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we're going to play with all these little refinements in a minute. Let's just continue along with this. We've got next Virasana. We talked about this morning. This is hero's pose. So this is now seated like this with the butt in between the ankles, and then Vajrasana. Say these poses. Say Siddhasana. Svastikasana. Sukhasana. Virasana. Hero's pose. And this is Vajrasana. Vajra, right? So it means diamond or rock pose. So Vajrasana is great because this is a really great one, because what it's doing to my spine is creating my natural curve. So earlier when I said we don't really want a straight spine, well, we want what's called a double S curve. So if you look at me from the side, you're going to see that I'm not rounded. I've got kind of a curve here, comes back up, chest is lifted, and then chin is slightly tucked. This is really sustainable. When you get into this kind of springy shape with your spine, it employs all of the deep spinal muscles in a way that allows them to just do their job and support proper posture. There's a great saying that Leslie Kaminoff, as a yoga teacher in anatomy, talks about when we get into a proper balance with our spine, we get what's called gravitational rebound. So when we stack the joints in a perfect way, we have more weight going in a direct motion. So if I'm here, there's weight from up here moving that way. And then it has to compensate to move down that way. So I've got a splintered sense of proportion. But when I coil the spine into the spring-like shape, or double S curve, or cobra shape, think of a cobra snake, right? How they do it, and then get really tall and hold themselves up. And it's just a really strong structure. So I'm pushing down in a direct way with no interruptions angularly. So then you actually kind of feel a lift from the earth in this. All right. There's one more, Padmasana. So generally speaking, I would recommend for most of you auspicious pose or Vajrasana. But I want you to be aware of these other ones. Siddhasana, Sukhasana. Doing it in a chair is okay too, but obviously we can't get the soles of the feet pointed up to receive the prana. So Padmasana, there's Ardha Padmasana, half lotus pose, right? And then and you can do the right side or the left side, and then there's Padmasana, full lotus pose, okay? Lotus pose is meant more for pranayama because it helps pump the CSF, because it creates a more extreme lordotic curve. So what I would suggest is, if you want to experiment with Padmasana, do this for your pranayama, and then do either Svastikasana or Vajrasana for your meditation. So you actually give yourself a chance to move. Now, if you can't do full Padmasana, let me back up. Siddhasana and Svastikasana, the left foot comes in first, right? For Padmasana, the right foot comes in first. This is a function of, everything is kind of structured around what the effect of this is right here. So if I'm doing lotus pose and I bring my right foot up first, it affects the liver meridian. If I bring the left foot up first, no meridian is affected. So therefore, if I'm doing my pranayama with my right leg in a deeper state of flexion, then for meditation, I want to balance that out with my left side in first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just to back that up, if I'm doing Padmasana with my right foot up, because there's a greater energetic benefit, then when I switch to Siddhasana, I do it with the left foot in first, just to balance my hips, because it's going to give a slight asymmetry to my hips. Each hemisphere is going to be kind of torqued slightly differently. Is it necessary to do Padmasana to get a good? No, like most days, like if I don't do asana before pranayama, I never do Padmasana, because it's one of those for me that isn't just readily accessible. But if I do like a crack on asana practice, I'll do my Padmasana. Then for meditation, I switch to Siddhasana, or excuse me, Svastikasana. So we're going to break up into pairs, and you're going to sit with each other and prop each other into Svastikasana and Vajrasana. So the other person's going to work with you kind of like a yoga teacher. So if Ryan and I were together, I'm going to cue him into this posture. I'm like, okay, bring your left foot in. You're going to sit up, sit on your perineum. So the heel, this is already, we're getting into some intimate conversation. Bring your heel in between your genitalia and your anus. My southern accent, right? Okay. It's not funny now that you have to do it, is it? That's not southern?
No, that's
Excuse me, ma'am.
a Western Coloradian. Like, sheriff.
I do declare.
Yeah, that's cowboy.
I do declare. So then you're gonna sit and watch them from the side, and if they give you permission, you can even touch their back to see, where they need to create more. So for me, depending on how open my hips are, depending on like what kind of tension I'm coming in with my body, how much asana I've done, how much working out I've done, I'm going to need to either sit on this size block. Today I needed this block. Some days I need this block. Some days I just need a folded blanket. The difference there is about 3 to 4 millimeters. That is huge though, by the way, in terms of achieving Kayasthira, because when you get yourself propped right to where your body is comfortable and it's no longer distracting you from the work your brain has to do, it's really, really, really important. Could you imagine what would happen if you came in a 200 hour, by the way, and I was like, welcome to teacher training. We're going to start talking about Bhuta Shuddhi. Yeah. So even though you two are in the 200 hour, I mean, obviously.
I mean, yeah, I would have been like, yeah.
Right. But by and large, like it's, we make a big case for like, this is a weird thing. Yeah. It's hard to do. The payoffs only come after long-term investment. And the payoffs aren't things that normal society values. But guess what? You're in the room, and this is the next phase of your yoga evolution.
We're not normal.
You're not normal. You care about your spiritual maturity. That's why you're here, right?
What's
Kayasthira? That's what you're going to work with your partner to establish. That just means a stable body. Stable and comfortable body to meditate in. All right?
So you can expect it to be moving throughout your sadhana?
Sadhana?
Or can you stay in just one position through all of it?
Totally. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I don't move. So I'll sit like this. Sometimes, like Bryce said, sometimes it's never shorter for me than 20 minutes. That's like the shortest. But there's days where I'll be like, holy crap, that was 90 minutes. And I like get up and I'm all, yeah, but it doesn't bother me until I get up. My body just, it's some critics of yoga might say, well, you've ossified your body in this way, right? But your body's going to ossify no matter what patterns or positions you put it in more continuously for long periods of time. So what I want to ossify my body is a strong support system so that prana can move freely in it, right? I don't want to have to rely on my spinal erectors to hold me here. I want to deeply condition all of my spinal tendons, ligaments, muscles, and connective tissue to support me sitting here for long periods of time with less and less effort over time, right? That's a good thing. This can be, yeah, yin can be very conducive to this.
Can I add one more thing?
Please do.
Popping for Virasana. So I sometimes have pain in my knees or hips that make like swastikasana. Swastikasana is also my preferred pose for this, but there are days where it just doesn't feel very good. And so typically my next option is Vajrasana. I like that one a lot, but that depending on the day can either cause pain in the ankles or sometimes the knees still too. So you can take the block and just sit on a block like this, and that helps reduce some of the pressure on the ankles and also a little bit on the knees. And like if I'm having a rough day, I can still sit in this for like 30 minutes to 45 minutes to get through, all the things.
Oh, sorry, is the block on the floor between?
Yeah,
your feet?
sorry, I should have.
No, that's okay. Oh, I see, thank you.
And just going off that, like if they don't have blocks at home.
Yeah, blankets, pillows, telephone books, small children. What's that? Vajrasana.
Virasana is with your feet spread,
You got it.
sitting on the floor.
You got it. Or a block. You can do a block with Virasana too, but it's just wider. The ankles come outside of the hips. So it's just the relationship of my thigh bone to my shin bone, right? They're stacked versus externally splayed. What I can tell you too is that, well, never mind. I don't want to make it complicated. I'm stopping myself. See, I do have some control about my yoga nerdness. So when you get into this conversation, I want you to think about your partner and think about, okay, where am I seeing tension that needs to be worked on? Like how, if they're sitting like this, name a pose or three that can help somebody get their hips more comfortable doing this. Have that conversation with your partner. Okay, so let's do all right, I'm going to put Mari in a group of 3 with y'all. And we're just going to go, I don't know, who was born in January? Who was born in February? Okay. Ryan and Andrea. Who was born in, and then Sebastian and Katie. You two are together. You two are together. Ryan, Andrea, I'm going to put you with Mari. Who was born in March? You two? Who was born in April? Who's born in May? Kathy and Kara, born in June. Just me, July. August, Lori, Hannah, September, October, you two, and now November. Wait, Shawana, Tiffany.
Yeah.
So who's left over? Tim. Oh, Tim and Amy. Where were you born? December. Oh, jeez. All right, so we're gonna break out for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes with your partners, and then we'll come back and talk and wrap up before lunch.
Okay.
And then do the dance one more time. Just kidding.
Oh, like, do I remember all those dances?
Hi, Shawana, come on. Okay, you want to posture first or second?
Sir, thank you. Pass you our precious cargo.
Hey, Mari.
Hi.
There's your voice.
Hey, Mari. Howdy.
All right, cool.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of want to try a bunch of them.
That's fine with me.
Let's see. Mari, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so I really like Vidrasana. Okay, let's try that one. So for that, we're gonna we're just gonna walk through the pose. That's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
just kind of put you in it. We want to see your posture in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess yeah, that's right. We're supposed to see your posture in it, and then we figure out some asanas that can help support that position.
Okay, for sure. So Vidrasana with the block coming down right here, and then this kind of, you can see my body.
Yeah, maybe that's
There we go,
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
that helps,
Yeah, I think your spine looks really good. You have a
the
block
shoulders
under
over
that?
the hips.
I do, yeah. I have a block underneath me.
I
But if I had no block, it would be like this, sitting on my
Yeah.
heels, kind of.
Do the block again?
Yeah, yeah, with the block under.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. Oh, that looks better. You have more of a curve in it.
Yeah, and your head is coming back over your shoulders.
Yeah, that looks.
That makes sense.
Does it feel okay in your knees? Or is there anywhere it feels tight or resistance?
Yeah, without the block, it does feel really tight in my knees, and then my ankles get like sat on. I feel like, but with the block, I don't feel any like uncomfortable. Like I feel like I could sit like this. But
Yeah. Okay. Looks great.
yeah.
Is that how you sat like for meditation before this?
Actually, no. I was sitting in more of the Siddhasana or the Svatstikana. Sorry.
Can I see you do that? I kind of just want to see what your body does in that.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this a little lower and like scoop myself back.
Oh, cool. Yes, perfect. Love it.
Okay. And then kind of like this, and I'm sitting on the block and just like very much on the edge. And then having my heel in the perineum. My other foot is like tucked underneath, and it gets numb right here. So I don't know specifically if it's like my foot that's on top causing the circulation cut off, but that's not so comfortable to me. So like, I don't know how to make my under leg from getting numb.
Yeah, I had the same issue in that pose. So cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing
Any
that.
advice on that?
Leg.
I don't know. Well, I mean, because like I'm sitting there going like, can we get some kind of like engagement that helps like externally rotate the thigh so you get a little bit more lifting. Like I've been like doing just not a lot of glute engagement, but just enough to kind of like, yeah, Malasana, bringing the glutes forward to help kind of increase that rotation of the thigh.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I feel like the thigh rotation does open it up, and it does something over here that it wasn't doing before.
Yeah, you have less of a curve in that position. You had more of a supported curve, certainly.
In
Vajrasana.
Vajrasana.
Like
Yeah.
your vagina for you. Yeah, that's
I think
much-
so.
That's
Well, yeah,
incredible.
because like we're not like working with like the tension of the hips in Vajrasana. Like it's easier because like that's what it is for all these folded leg ones. For me, it's like my hips always start to hurt really bad. You know, and so I think these closed hip positions, I don't know. I find them definitely easier to sustain maybe until your legs.
6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Until I have no sensation left in my body, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
Cool. Yeah. Thank y'all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's next?
You want to go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll
I
see.
mean, so I kind of want to see if I can work towards Virasana because I just want to go a little bit further, I guess.
Will you hand me your book? I'm gonna really just think that'll.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Can you see that? Okay, Mari.
Yeah, I can see.
Good. Okay. This is where you sit on your ankles.
So my ankles are wide at the hips,
Oh,
and then my butt's coming towards the floor. Like it's a little floating right now. But it's like it's tense on the knees. So I feel like it's a lot of tension in the quadriceps.
Do you have that curve in your lower back? I was gonna ask, 'cause I can't see.
You try sitting on a block.
Yeah. I feel like the block kind of helps you get your head back.
Yeah, it feels more supported because like I was definitely forcing it, but I still have the tension in the quads, and there's definitely tightness in the knees.
Do you want to try the bigger one? Yeah, pull your shirt up again. Thank you.
Does it help if you sit more on the edge, like the long edge of the block? Or rotate it 90 degrees and then have it be sitting on the long edge of the block? Does that help at all?
I'm noticing my ankles. Just notice more. Yeah. I think it was about the same.
What feels best to you of all the things you tried?
I think just having it just like this was fun.
Yeah. And you like the thicker block than the littler one?
Yeah, I think it needed a little bit more.
Yeah. It looks
Does that
good.
help your pelvis tilt the anteriorly?
Yeah, and then so we'll, we don't want to sway out. I don't know. I guess I'm still kind of getting some tension. Like anytime I'm really trying to like bring the pelvis underneath slightly, I always get some sense of tension. Like my tightest spot during meditation is almost always right
Yeah.
here, and so I don't know. That's what I'm
Well,
doing.
what poses help with that?
Well, I usually I've been doing some Baddha Konasana, like, but I don't know if that's really
Opening that.
up for me. Like I said, I've been trying to be more supportive of the glutes, so the glutes can help kind of like ease, because it feels like this side is always clenching, and then my butt's just like not doing anything because it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe like a camel pose will help you get that like.
Camel pose to stretch that and then kind of strengthening your glutes at the same time and pushing that out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I feel that.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. How about you?
I like your same pose that you guys both did.
Okay, let's bring it back.
We're almost done. We're almost done. We need one more minute. Okay. I definitely need a blanket.
Oh, your
up
spine
there.
looks really good right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that nice S curve in your spine right there, and it does look like your hips are very. Does it feel like tight anywhere in your knees?
Just a little bit, but I think it'd be fine if I had a blanket underneath.
So yeah. So you're just
Yeah.
softer on the ground. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
it
feels
looks really
really
nice.
good.
Yeah.
I like it too. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank y'all.
Thank you, thank you. Margot here. I always have this low angle view of me. It's like all my folds and nose hairs.
You got a little gold in the cave. I'm just kidding.
Razz me. Okay, what did you all learn? Can you share one thing you learned, Kara?
When I was doing meditation this morning in that normal position where you usually sit, my legs are falling asleep or my foot is falling asleep. And that just started like recently, I feel like in the past few months. So sitting in Virasana is so much better. Like I feel more confident and like ready to like sit for like hours. Like I
Nice.
just feel so much more stable.
Nice. Who else? Yeah, Shawan.
We all have very different bodies and bones.
Yeah.
Yes, we all have very different bodies and bones. Yeah.
Oh, I have to say it.
So did you also talk about what you can do in your asana practice? Did you get some of this? Okay.
You didn't give us enough time.
I know. Well, so what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to let me just give you the optional homework and remind you too that your restorative pose that you have. So going back to homework yesterday, you have a restorative pose you need to research this month, right? You have not got assigned that. You will get assigned that on Monday by Sam Stinks, just so you know. Look for that. There is an optional homework assignment that you can create a 15 to 20 minute sequence to prep somebody for a meditation pose. Now you're welcome to collaborate with your partner and be like, hey, I'd really love to teach you through this in the next month. And if they oblige, then it just kind of creates that sense of, deeper accountability for it. So you don't have to do this, but if you are a sequencing nerd or an anatomy nerd, if you love the poses and things like that, I would recommend doing this. It's not going to be graded. You don't have to turn it in. We can talk about it a little bit, but this is really just going to be for your own edification. It's just going to make you a better teacher. So if you're here to be a better public awesome teacher, it's also going to help support your own practice. But if you really start to think about, holy cow, if I were to just take the Cambio sequence, turn that into a 20-minute sequence, first off, just that, what would I cut out? What would I leave in, right? Thinking that I've got to get tapas, sattva, but now we're adding a third component. You have to prepare the body for not just a peak pose, but a finishing pose, right? So it's not just, peak pose is usually something you hit in the middle and then you move on from. Now, the meditation pose happens at 20-minute mark. So everything is building tapas and sattva and preparing the springs and pulleys and tensions of the ligaments, tendons, muscles, and connective tissue to prepare somebody to get as deep as they can into. And by the way, it's probably going to be a different sequence if you're choosing Virasana, if you're choosing Vajrasana, if you're choosing Siddhasana, right? So you have to start with, where am I going? So pick one of those, and it's okay. I would pick the one that you want to work on yourself. And then you can write it, you can record it and take your own class. Or if your partner's into it, you can actually meet up with them, teach them, get feedback. Or I think that it's also a really great exercise to record yourself teaching it as a video and then send it to them. Because then, there's that whole other level of just like working with technology that can be something that, as far as a yoga teacher, something that we need to face in our careers, right? Working with technology. So that's the optional homework. Is anybody going to do it, do you think? Raise your hand if you're going to do it. I don't want a hand up if it's a maybe. Who's going to guarantee they're going to do it? Okay. Nice. Now, for the last 8 minutes, you're going to cross-pollinate. You're going to meet with your sadhana group. And I want you to, each of you, take a minute or two to talk about a strategy of how you're going to practice your sadhana this month, where you're going to practice it, when you're going to practice it, what parts are you going to try to be consistent with every day, what parts are you going to just be like, okay, I know I'm not going to do the chanting every day, or I know I'm not going to be able to hit asana every day, or my asana is going to be in the public classes, and then I can stay after, and while people are wrapping up Shavasana, I'll do my pranayama then, I'll do my meditation in the morning. You understand? So you're going to take 2 minutes to kind of come up with like just a throw the spaghetti against the wall, see what noodles stick, about how to proceed this month to guide yourself through your self-guided sadhana. Yeah.
You guys have the optional homework for the asanas. They could be any asana, right? It doesn't
Totally.
have to be restorative asana.
Oh,
flow.
no, I wouldn't be restorative. No, I wouldn't make it restorative at all, because you've got to build tapas.
Okay.
But you don't also have time to do maybe an integration in 20 minutes. You probably go, I don't know if you're going to have time to do a sun-a. You might have to,
Right, yeah.
you have to think about it in terms of like how to get to here, here, and here in 20 minutes. It's a fun assignment, huh?
Or to end in this pose, that would be.
Yeah, but you have to hit tapas and sattva.
Okay, so if you're only doing 20 minutes, are you still doing the 7 movements of the spine in those 20 minutes?
I think that's totally reasonable.
Okay. Do you do Shavasana?
No Shavasana. Skip Shavasana.
So you're getting the 7 movements of the spine in 20 minutes.
What's the 7th? There's 6.
Oh, 6.
Yeah, okay. I was like, does it
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
inward. It's going inward. It's Bhuta Shuddhi, baby. It's chakra kundalini meditation.
So you want to get,
Inversion.
so you wouldn't do Sunday, but you'd still do like standing.
Yeah, I would start standing. I would just start in Tadasana and go from there. I wouldn't mess around with any kind of foreplay. You know what I mean?
I really like child's
Know what you mean.
pose, especially at 6 months.
What was that?
I really like child's
I know,
pose.
no.
That's my favorite pose.
Well-
I'm gonna just sit here for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so get into your groups, discuss your strategy for how you're going to achieve success with practicing your sadhana completely on your own for the next month. Whose group is Mari in? Over there? Okay. Quick.
Hi, Mari.
Hello.
So for my sadhana practice, I feel like Nauli Kriya and Kapalabhati are the 2 that I like really want to stick with. Like right when I wake up in the morning, just doing those 2 at least. it's kind of like you were saying, to see what sticks. Like those, I don't want to overwhelm myself too much.
Yeah.
But I'd like to do the meditation later in the day, like maybe in the evening, because when I wake up early,
Do you like game plan for like trying though?
yeah, it's like that's the, well, yeah,
After dinner? I don't know.
yeah.
Hours.
Well, after dinner, I mean,
Saying like later in the day.
just well,
things
yeah.
get in your way.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometime like before bed, like usually I read later in the day, but then I guess maybe before I like brush my teeth and stuff and get ready
Part of your
for
bedtime
bed.
routine.
Yeah, like just add it on to the routine, like at least get some time in there. I mean, I would add in some asana, but like I take so many public classes that I feel like I'll just get the asana that way. And then I've been taking like much longer shavasanas and adding on that kind of stuff in the end anyway. So I'll probably experiment with like the pranayama and the meditation after as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of my game plans overall. But like Nauli Kriya and Kapalabhati, I really want to stick with in the morning because Kapalabhati feels really good. It's really powerful to build on.
Yeah.
And same with that meditation. So I want to keep that in. And then Nauli Kriya seems like something that takes a lot of time to like understand and get better at. So like that's kind of my main focus. Yeah.
Mario, I'm not sure for you about asana. I need to be gentle with my body still coming back into it after several years. So I planned as well. I have been very consistent with my 200 hour. I have to do public classes. So I'm gonna do my asana with that. I am gonna start in the mornings because I think that's easiest for me. Should I forgot the components?
Oh, here, I got it. I wrote them down.
Thank you.
Here.
I do need to work on Shavasana. I am planning to just incorporate that into my asana already. I've already been incorporating a lot of breathing techniques that every time I'm showing up to a class, I'm there early to do the breathing before. So that's been working for me. I'm gonna keep that up. And then yeah, I'm gonna force myself to stay in Shavasana after my asana class.
We heard it first.
Yeah, I hate Shavasana. I need to focus on that. I hate it. And I actually want to talk to them about some things I've been experiencing with it. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm gonna try and really focus on that. And then I'm gonna do everything else. Breath work in the mornings, meditation. I'm gonna try that in the mornings because that'll be best for my schedule. If I don't do it in the morning, like the day gets away from me. So.
Nice. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, for me, I feel like, gosh, as soon as I wake up, that Sankalpa starts like repeating in my head over and over again. And that's like really what gets me motivated to like even start my day. And then typically I've been starting with just like asana, but I've been doing just like child's pose. Like as soon as I wake up, I just kind of like get into child's pose. I'll just like tuck my pillow underneath me and like do that in bed. So that's been really helpful. And then I'll continue doing that. And I think I'm going to add in probably some of the chanting because I really love chanting like Ram and Ata, and then the Yoga Sita Vritti Narodha, like adding that in with the cycle. And then because I'm a mom and because the schedule then starts to like kick off as soon as I wake up, I think as soon as like nap time or something like that comes in, I think nap time is whenever I'm really going to start to focus on meditation and at least do like 5 minutes, I think is just like the minimum, and then add the breath work in there. And then at the very end of the day, probably try the Nauli Kriya like right before bed or something like that. And then focus on the deep relaxation.
Cooling breath.
For bed.
Might need to do cooling breath after Nauli Kriya if you're gonna do it in the evening, but just
That's really good advice. Yeah.
A lot of
yeah.
heat, yeah. Want to kind of sleep and you're like, why the fuck can't I sleep?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's something to be mindful of. Yeah. Or like maybe even before, like I like as soon as I do like bedtime routine, then do Nauli Kriya and then like settle in for like deep relaxation after. So like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Cool.
Do you always get nap time every day with your kids?
I do. Yeah, typically. Yeah.
Some people like don't, so I should just.
I know. It's sometimes it's hit or miss, and sometimes it's like, okay, I need to leave you to cry so I can go take care of myself. But yeah.
Yeah, I like your ideas. That's one that I think I'm gonna incorporate as well. Like you reminded me, the Sankofa. I think that's the important one to start with in the morning for sure. And I really like the mantra too. I like the kirtan a lot. Like I think that's fun. It's like a fun kind of group sort of thing, but maybe it'd be good to incorporate in the morning. Like there's so many things that I want to put in the morning, and it's like, how early am I going to wake up? Like, am I going to do a full like 2 hours here?
Yeah, I think the important part, like what they were saying, is like even like 2 or 3 minutes a day, even just that.
Yeah, there can be an intention, like saying goal is sometimes not the best context word, but an intention of like, okay, this one. But if you only get to the one component of that in the morning, at least you did that.
Yeah, I like that. What about you, Kathy?
Yeah.
I don't, gosh, it's gonna be hard for me. I'm not into the self-care at home. The Nelly Korea, I think I'll work on throughout the day. I like how it feels and physically very healthy for me. The things I'm gonna struggle with the most probably are the meditation.
Maybe we'll modify next time.
I don't
I
know.
know you go to quite a lot of public
I
classes.
go to a lot
Do
of
you
public
think you
classes.
can try like what I've
right
been
after,
doing?
right after the
I mean, it's
asana.
not always the most conducive space, but like
Yeah, I mean, a
sometimes
lot
I
of
show
people
up to
do
class
stay.
and
Yeah, it
it's,
can be depending on the class. Like if you ever do Laura Lance's class, like everybody's usually pretty quiet and chill in there. I like her Wednesdays because it goes right into the end.
So that's good. I knew I needed to do belly breathing exercises, and I was like,
Yeah,
how,
no, that's a
how
good
am I gonna
idea.
do
Like
that?
do that
So I
right
was like,
after.
every time before I go into a class, but I don't know, like maybe that could help.
Yeah,
Do you
no,
have a
that's a
hard
good
time at
idea.
home?
Yeah, I do have a hard time at home. So yeah, that was it, right? Oh, and then the sun call. I really like thinking of that when you first wake up. That's a great idea.
Okay, so just like.
Okay, he's
Great,
calling
great
us back.
plans, everything.
Sweet. Yay.
So right where we sit, just stay where you're at. That's okay. Do you have a rough plan how this is gonna go?
Yeah,
Do you think it's gonna work?
Yeah.
I don't know what
Let
you're
me
saying.
ask you this, did you plan like a big massive symphony around the sun? So what I would say is it's okay to be grand about it as long as there are little independent pieces. So if 9 out of 10 things fail, you still succeed in one thing. Does that make sense? Versus like, I have this big grand thing, and if one thing falls, all 10 fall. Does that make sense? So think of it that way too. Let yourself be kind of fluid with it. Well, let's go to lunch, and we'll do, any questions about this or thoughts before we move on? What a great weekend. This is my last moment with you this weekend. I just want to say that like, I live to teach this stuff, and it's uncommon that people go through the things that are required to get into this conversation. Because I can't just grab somebody off the street and be like, hey, you want to talk about Bhuta shooting? So it's just really like the fact that you people are here endear you to me in my heart in a way that I am just extremely grateful for. And so I'm just dedicated to this work with you, and it just means a lot to me.
Thank you.
So whether you know it or not, we're at a whole other place in our relationship now.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah, and I just want to really thank Bryce for being so instrumental in making this just so much better than it ever could have been.
Thanks, Brian.
Bruce.
Black rat.
Well, my phone always calls him Bruce. So lastly, come back at 2:05, and remember that you're going to be moving all afternoon, and let us know how it goes, man. Because, if I don't see you at my classes or I don't see you posting stuff online, I'm not going to see you till next month. So I don't want that to happen. Stay in touch. All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, please. Thanks, Mari. See you in an hour. Let me just text Laura. Sure.
Today, I had, oh wow.